The women that you work with, what do you find are some of the hardest things for them to accept?
The common theme I have noticed across men and women actually, but I think especially so for the women, is that they are so disconnected with who they are that they don't even know who they are. Like they look in the mirror, they see a reflection, but they don't truly know who that reflection is.
It strikes me that if you had said yes, you would have compromised who you are.
Being on this entrepreneurial journey, I mean, don't get me wrong, it has been a ride of my life. And sometimes not in the best sense, right? I mean, it is frustrating, it is challenging, and I'm still figuring things out, right, on my journey. But man, I would not give it up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesdays Off podcast. My guest today is Jacquelynn Peterson. Many career women know they're meant for more, but are terrified of making the leap or struggling to find success on their terms. As a double certified transformational coach, speaker, and retreat leader, Jacquelynn helps powerhouse women find their path, own their power, and prosper with purpose. As the founder and chief joy and purpose advocate, I really like that, chief joy and purpose advocate, at Joyful Living Mindset, Jacquelynn is on a mission to help women understand that success is a journey, not the destination. And loving who you are, the work you do, and the life you're living each day, on that journey is the end goal. And that's how you get to the fulfillment we're all seeking. If you want to learn more about her, joyfullivingmindset.com. Jacquelynn, you are speaking my language. I always like to say people try to earn freedom, but freedom's not something you earn, it's something you claim. So I feel like we're on the same journey. Welcome to the show.
Yes. Thank you, Stavros. I'm so excited to be here.
Jacquelynn, maybe tell us in your own words, what is it that you do and why is it so meaningful to you?
Yes, so I primarily I focus on helping powerhouse women who are seeking more fulfillment in their success, really to help them discover their purpose and turn that purpose into a profitable business or profession, and be able to create sustainable success that works for them, like their version of success that they want to be living, not somebody else's.
What is a powerhouse woman?
A powerhouse woman is, a woman who is just crushing it at work, at home, and everywhere she is, right? She seems like she's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders, and she is a super high functioning, overachieving woman, right? And she's just has a heart of service and just very ambitious and have great aspirations for herself. And she doesn't um, settle, right? She's always like striving for like, what's the best thing to do? What's next? And how do I continue to grow? How do I continue to add value? How do I continue to lead?
So what's wrong with being a powerhouse woman? Sounds awesome, but what's the downside?
I think the downside of being a powerhouse woman is that we are so driven for success and excellence that sometimes we get kind of wrapped up in that momentum of chasing the next goal, the next milestone, the next achievement. And at first, we start off with like good intentions, right? It's like, oh, I want to, whether you're still in the 9 to 5, I want to work hard to get a promotion to support my family and whatnot. But if you really kind of create space to really take a look at what's driving that behavior, most of the time you'll see that it's actually, I don't know if you've ever come across Dr. Gabor Mate's work. He talks about trauma and the effects of trauma. And it's really as a result of unresolved trauma, like that was your kind of like coping mechanism while you were dealing with that trauma earlier in your life. And it just becomes like kind of like you're adapting, it's your success adapting mechanism for you. And so now that becomes part of like your operating system. And you just kind of stop to say, hey, why am I working so? Is it really because I'm moving towards a purpose or an intention? Or is it actually I'm still trying to prove something to someone or especially myself? Right? You're still in that proving mode. And obviously, as you can imagine, it leads to a lot of overwhelm and burnt out. And most importantly, disconnected. you're so disconnected from life, from yourself, and therefore it shows up in your relationships, it shows up in your health, and in many just different areas of your life.
It's so hard for people to, I don't know that this is the right word, but it's so hard for people to feel sorry for overachievers because they're like, oh, you've got everything. You're doing everything. You're on top of everything. But
Right.
on the inside, it feels empty, right? It feels like you're on a treadmill. You're just chasing a thing. You got stuff to
Yeah.
do. The end of the day
Yeah.
comes. You're just exhausted or tired.
Yeah.
And
And there's no peace.
yeah, no peace. That's a really, really good way to describe it. You don't feel any peace. And I remember even when I did in my own career create the time and space and financial ability to kind of not have things to do, my mind was still wired that way. So there still wasn't
Yeah.
any peace, right? So I was chasing this
Yeah.
thing, and when I got there, there still wasn't any peace.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, that was a really hard lesson for me to learn because I didn't know any better. I was groomed to be that way, right? Especially as an immigrant family, it was just like it was expected that excellence and overperforming and success was expected, right? It's not a luxury or an option even. It was expected, and I just blindly
Yeah.
prescribed to that way of life until like and I was so committed. So this is the interesting fact. I was so ignorant and I was so committed to that way of life that I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I thought that I was doing everything right,
Mhm.
right? Until like the higher power, the universe or whatnot knew that, okay, this chick is like really not getting the message. So we're going to have to like put her in timeout. And literally, that's really what happened, where the higher power, the universe, whatever you want to call it, stripped away everything that I was tying my identity and sense of achievement and pride to, like my job, my marriage, my financial status, everything, like seemingly overnight, everything was just stripped away from me. And it just forced me to like, okay, now I have nowhere to go, nothing to do, no one to take care of, and no money to spend. So what am I gonna do?
Sounds like
So that would, yeah.
it sounds like there's a story there. Tell us what happened. Where were you?
It was just me when I was still in the corporate world, like early on in my corporate career, like 10 years
Yeah.
in, right? I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I thought I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing, and the higher I climbed, the more promotions, the better the pay and the raise. And the funny thing was, the more kind of like I had for once kind of like leverage, or when I go to like my family gatherings with my parents and my brothers, like I'm not the one that they're whispering behind my
Yeah.
back of like, oh my God, just like what is she doing with her life, right? It's like I was actually the one in my family that was actually leading the way. And so that was, I'm just like I'm walking around. I'm like, okay, so I've got this, right? I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I ignored all the signs. I ignored all the signs of like, okay, like just like what you said earlier, where you had the money, you had the lifestyle, you had everything, but it just felt so empty inside. And at night, and when the whole world is asleep, I'm not
Yeah.
asleep, right? My mind's racing and it's tormenting me, and I never kind of felt peaceful during that time. But I kept ignoring it. I'm just like, I guess that's just the way life. I just kind of like blindly accepted that that's just the way life was, right? Until one day, it's just like I was called into the HR office with my boss, and before I knew it, it's like, okay, thank you for your service, but your position has been discontinued, right? And it's just like what do you mean? It's like I like my performance review was it's like high up there. Like what do you mean? And so as a high achiever, it's like it's hard to not take that personally, right? And but yeah, it's just like at that point, not only did I just lose my job all of a sudden, but my marriage was at that point like we were separated, and literally, Stavros, we were a signature away from divorce.
Mm.
Like that was just how bad things were. And then for me, I just realized that, oh my gosh, it's like I, and also to make things worse, I was like 300,000 in debt at that point, right? And so, yeah, that was to me, a lot of times it's like I could have sat there and said, oh my God, like why? And there were times when I
Yep.
did, like why? I did everything right. Like why is this happening to me? But when all of it just kind of aligned and I had to accept, like, okay, what really, why am I in this situation? And I remember that I was so ignorant that I didn't want to accept that that was my reality, right? And I remember coming home one day with my after dropping off my son. This time I was in my apartment, empty, alone, and I came home and I remember till this day, I still remember distinctly. I came home and like collapsed on the floor, down on my knees, and I was yelling out loud to myself. I'm like, universe, it's like, I give up.
Mm.
Like, I freaking give up. It's like, I was doing everything that I thought I was doing and nothing is working. I'm trying to apply to jobs to get back on my feet again, like crickets, right? Like nothing was working. And I'm like, I know that there's more to me than this. I know that I have more in me to give. This cannot be the end of my story. But I also, like, I don't know where I got this wherewithal to even understand. I'm like, I know that there must be a higher reason why you're grounding me right now, why you are making sure that I have nothing to distract myself, and you want me to be in this space of stillness. Like, I know that there's a reason
Hmm.
for that. So, so I'm like, okay, I give up. I'm now just gonna just not do what I was doing, and I'm just gonna give myself the space and permission to just be still and try to listen to whatever it is that you actually are trying to tell me that I haven't been listening to.
What'd you hear?
And that was a pivotal moment in my life.
What'd you hear? What did you do next? What came to you in that stillness?
I think it was more of me realizing that I was focusing too much on the external,
Hmm.
um, worrying too much about what my life was looking like externally, and I wasn't looking internally. And like the loudest thing that I heard during that time was that there were parts of me that were broken that I didn't even know were broken that I needed to fix within me so that I can turn my life around and to stop pointing the finger and blaming that brokenness and projecting that brokenness onto my husband, onto my boss or my career or anybody else, that it was me. And that if I was going to fix this, I needed to fix me first. And that was the beginning of like truly that inward journey that I took and have committed to. Because before, like I was hearing, yeah, all this help stuff, but I was just like, yeah, whatever,
Hmm.
you know, and I'm like, oh, well, not that I dismissed. I'm like, okay, it's good, but I didn't like really know how to apply it to my life. And frankly, I back then I didn't realize that I needed to apply
Yeah.
any of this. My life was going great, right? Until it wasn't. So I think that was like the big blessing in disguise for me. That had that not happened, I probably would have continued on in that hamster wheel, being so ignorant of everything that was going on, everything that my soul and this higher power inside of me was trying to guide me and
Yeah.
course correct me.
You used the word grooming earlier, and
Yeah.
I think that's such a good word to use. And I'm getting flashbacks of coming home with like a 98 on a test. And the question, it wasn't congratulations, it was what happened to the other 2 points. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh my God, you are absolutely correct. I still remember till this day walking home from school. I think I was in like was it seventh grade or something? I had a B, staff rose, and I tell you that was the longest time I took walking from the bus station to my home because I dreaded coming home and showing my report card to my dad that I had a B on my report card. Like straight A's was expected, right? And I was walking, and one of my busmates, and friend was just like, why are you so down? It's. He goes, yeah, I have to show my report card to my parents, and he goes, oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, my parents aren't going to be good with seeing my report cards. I've got a couple of C's and even like a D and stuff like that. And he goes, and you got the same, huh? I'm like, well, I got a B. He's like, you got one B. And he said, what did you get the rest? And I go, A's. And I go, why are you stressing out over that? And I'm like, because my parents expect me to get straight
Mm.
A's. And he just like laughed at me. He didn't understand that, but that was my reality. Right. So yeah, I totally get it. Just like you don't look at like all the things that you did right, but that one B was the lecture of the evening.
And ultimately that makes us feel not enough, right? Your
Yeah,
standard for yourself, it just keeps climbing. Whatever your standard is for yourself
exactly.
just keeps getting higher and higher.
Exactly. And that contributes to like that overachieving tendency and nature that we have um, as an adult.
I think one of the best gifts that ever happened to me is I got into a specialized high school, and I I actually didn't get in when I first took the test. And I had to do a probationary program and go to summer school to get in. And I believe, I don't know this officially, but I believe I probably had the lowest score ever accepted to that high school, right? So I'm officially the dumbest person to ever go to that specialized high school.
I'm sure you
But
weren't.
what
I'm sure you weren't.
happened was that I was surrounded the whole time in my academic career before then. It came easy. Everything was just easy. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, do the math test, no problem. And for the first time, I was just surrounded by people who were just as smarter than me. And I realized that hard work is actually the difference, and that no matter how much I applied myself, there were people in that building that were going to outperform me no matter what. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like, because no, I don't care if
Yeah,
you're the best. There's always somebody better. You know what I mean? And so it
yeah,
started to check my own ego at a very young age and be like, yeah, you're not number one, kiddo. You know what I mean? And so I think getting that gift early was really valuable. Otherwise, I could have imagined,
yeah,
staying on that treadmill.
yeah. I mean, wow, that's incredible that you understood that at such a young age. I mean, I was at that point, that moment that I shared with you earlier, I didn't know how to surrender my ego. I was like 35
Mm,
um, when that happened, and so it took me that long to even understand the concept that it's like, yeah, it's not all about you, right? It really isn't, and sometimes we have to learn how to surrender our ego and let go of that control and really be present to what it is that is important to us, what it is that we really are supposed to be and become and step into instead.
yeah. What do you find the women that you work with? What do you find are some of the hardest things for them to accept? What do you find are some of the hardest decisions that they maybe want to make, but they just have a hard time making them?
Yeah. I think the common theme I have noticed across all the clients I've served, men and women actually, but I think especially so for the women, is that they are so disconnected with who they are
Mm,
that they don't even know who they are. Like they look in the mirror, they see a reflection, but they don't truly know who that
mm,
reflection is, right? And it's just really interesting. Like for instance, what one of my client recently I worked with, and one of the exercises I had her go through was just really kind of having her to kind of disconnect with her external, like she was creating massive success externally, right, but feeling so empty and alone inside. And so I had to kind of disconnect her and kind of guiding her to go inward and just going back to the basics of um, getting her to be reacquainted with herself
Yeah.
again, right? And asking her like a simple question of like, what is it about you that you most appreciate? And will you believe, Stavros, that that stopped her dead in her tracks?
Mm.
Like she could not answer that question, and she started like breaking down and crying in that moment. And she's like, I've never asked myself that question before, and I don't think I've ever stopped to even see me enough to identify anything that I appreciate about myself. But she can come, but she's like, but I can come up with all these other things about me that I am lacking or need to work on. But she's never taken the time to even look at herself and really understand who she is and her strengths and what she appreciates about herself. And even more importantly, what is it that she wants? Like it's never her whole life. And I totally relate this. I was there. Her whole life has always been about responsibilities and obligations and doing what needs to be done or should be done, not what she wants to get done.
I think that
And I don't, can you relate to that or any of your clients relate to that, Stavros?
I think that image of staring at the mirror and looking at a stranger is so powerful. And I think, honestly, if I just reflect on my own journey, there were probably decades where I didn't even stop to realize that that person was a stranger. I just kind of went, I was on autopilot,
Mm,
right? I was just kind of going.
yeah,
And I had a guest on the podcast last season, and she said burnout happens when the version of yourself that's showing up in the world is not the version of
yeah,
yourself that's aligned with who you are or who you know what I mean. And so there's just this
yeah,
disconnect, and you literally become a stranger, and you're just living a stranger's life, and
yeah,
you're, it's just not resonating. Yeah, that completely
yeah.
resonates with me.
Yeah, I love that episode. I actually listened to that episode, and I love that conversation. That I think was it Stephanie? What was it?
Stephanie Marte. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That was a great conversation because it's like everything that she was saying, like from a woman, from a high performing woman to a mother to a daughter. Like I related to everything that she was saying, and it's so true. That disconnection is so real. And then and I think that that's the other challenge that a lot of high achieving women go through. And I don't know if it's the same with men, Stavros not, but I think what she said, where it's like, how can you be so successful in one area of your life and be completely incompetent in another area, right? And as an overachiever, like that eats at you because you expect so much about yourself that you should be excelling on all levels. And I think that's probably why going back to my client, why just asking her that simple
Yeah.
question of what is it about yourself that you appreciate? Like that just brought awareness to her that, oh my gosh, I have been so focused on performing and my career and whatnot. Like I have totally disconnected with myself that I can't even, I like she literally cannot answer that
Mhm.
question.
Mhm.
And so it that struggle is real.
So let's go back now. So when your position was terminated, is that when you turned to coaching, or was there another chapter in corporate America?
There was actually another chapter in corporate America, interestingly enough. I think that that first layoff to me was just enough to help me to reset,
Mhm.
right? And for me to realize that, okay, whoa, maybe the path that you were down was not the path that you were meant to go on, continue on, right? And so instead, I focused on that inward journey, and and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna not worry about trying to get back on my feet, get another job and whatnot, and I really kind of started to delve into the practice of meditation and and I somehow stumbled on visualization. This is just how like crazy it was because I didn't even know about this whole visualization thing back then. And one day I was just asking myself, I'm like, okay, well, um, I'm like, if resources, if money and resources were not an issue, what would I want to do with my life? And that question was, I didn't know it back then, but man, oh man, was that such a powerful question, because I never allowed myself to be in that space of like dreaming limitlessly
Mm.
like that before. Probably not since I was a little girl, right? When we were a child, we can just dream and do all that. But I never allowed myself to dream in that sense before. And that was when I started creating this space for me to kind of throw logic out the window and start to come up with this vision. And this vision was so powerful, it was so moving. It was bigger than me. It was larger, and it meant something so much bigger than me, and providing for my life and my family. But this was an impact that I didn't even realize that was even possible, that was even in the cards for me, right? And the interesting thing was the vision of it was so powerfully moving that when my husband came home, oh, by the way, that inward journey that I took back then, that it helped me to turn my marriage
Okay.
around, and we were able to save our marriage. But it I had to fix myself,
Mm-hmm.
like I said
Mm-hmm.
first, right? And so, but anyway, um, when my husband came home, I was so excited. I couldn't wait to tell him about this vision, right? My son at that time, he was like 10 years old. He was upstairs playing with Legos and whatnot, and I'm downstairs sharing my husband up this vision. And before I know it, my son comes down and he waits for it. There's a pause in the conversation, and he waits and he goes, "Mommy, is this what you were describing? Is this the place that you were describing to dad, like the vision that I had, right?" And he, as a 10-year-old, drew out like what he thought my vision
Mm-hmm.
was. And I still have that piece of paper that he drew till this day. Like it was just that powerful, right? And then I'm just like, I was so moved. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to do something with this, right? And not just stay in the corporate world. And and then so I'm like, okay, I don't know what my next step would be, but I'm just kind of like sit in this space and kind of dream up and kind of build out this vision even more and see where it leads me. And I mean, from a logical standpoint, it seemed ridiculous because I was here like at that moment, like over $300,000 in debt. Yet this vision of mine would have costed like millions upon millions to create, right? And and I'm just like, well, I don't know what my next step should be. I'm just gonna be in this space of allowing myself to be guided. And the next thing I know, literally, somebody emails me and offers me a job. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I have spent like 6 months trying to get a job and nothing comes out of it. And now I finally have this exciting vision that I want to pursue. Now the universe wants to redirect me to back into another chapter of the corporate world. I'm like, what is going on here? And so I sat there and I meditated about it. And I really did like some self-reflection on it. I'm like, okay, is this really moving me towards a vision or deterring me? And and I realized, well, the first step or first thing I need to make this vision come true is that I need to climb out of this massive mountain of debt that we have, right? And so I'm like, well, what if I did accept this opportunity to go back into the corporate world, but with the intention to pay off the debt and build kind of like this safety net and actually create financial freedom for us to move forward in that vision. And so that's what ended up happening, is that I had another short chapter back in the corporate world until we had that financial freedom for me to totally transition into entrepreneurship, which is a whole new chapter in and of
What
itself.
was your vision? Do you mind sharing with us?
Sure, yeah. The vision was that I wanted to create what I call a haven of well-being, and it's called Mingles. And I envision it's a place where no matter what's going on in your life, you can come here and there will be community of like-minded people trying to find their path, trying to align in their path, trying to become the best versions of themselves and become aligned and compassionate leaders. There's a cafe with delicious and healthy meals to nourish your body, and a beautiful sanctuary garden that and a spacious covered patio that overlooks a beautiful sanctuary garden for you to just connect with others while you're eating, or if you just want to take a stroll and just do self-reflection in nature, which I love to do, and kind of ground yourself again. There will be uh, gurus and mentors that I look up to that they'll host like webinars or conferences or seminars for us to continue to grow and evolve in that inward and guide us on that inward journey. There's a library of lots of books that's going to help us develop ourselves. And it's just like this beautiful space, right? And like I said, I didn't know like how I was going to do it. And but yeah, so that was the journey of like, wow, it's like it's a vision of me creating a space that unites people in love and prosperity and alignment. And it's not just for me, but it's in service of humanity, of people that I didn't even know, right? And so that was like the first time I'm like, whoa, maybe there's a bigger purpose for me than just climbing the corporate ladder and making more money.
It's always amazing to me when you hear people talk about their visions. More often than not, they're not these crazy, outlandish. They're usually very simple, soul-touching things. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
Yeah.
I, one that I had for myself at some point is I would love to open just a small little restaurant. I have no interest in being in the food industry, but with a nice view overlooking something, and where I would just pick one thing. Like there would only be one thing on the menu, whatever I'm making that night. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's all
Yeah.
that's available, right? So I don't know if this is ever going to come true. I also don't know if that the point of visions is that they ever actually materialize as you're imagining them. Sometimes they're just
Mm,
guiding emotional anchors, you know what I mean? So that
yeah.
as you navigate through life, you go, am I getting closer to that feeling or further from that feeling? Um,
Yeah. I love it's basically your North Star,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It doesn't. I mean,
Yeah.
it's you don't have to try to make that vision actually real in the world.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's okay to just have a vision and be like, okay, if I'm okay just letting it go. You know what I mean? Like I have a
Yeah.
thing, but I'm okay just letting it go and seeing what happens. The other thing that
Yeah.
I liked about your story was most people, when they think about making a change, they think about making a very dramatic change. But you took
Hmm.
the job back in corporate America, which was you were a changed person now. And now you are
Yes.
going back. And so you made an incremental change to your circumstance, but you had transformed. And so, from the outside, somebody can be like, oh, you were in corporate before, you're in corporate after. Who cares, right? Like you didn't actually,
Yeah.
nothing changed. But actually, the whole world had changed because you had gone in with a different intention and you made the incremental decision that you needed to make to get you closer to that vision that you were ultimately after.
Yeah, that is such an astute observation, Stavros. Thank you so much for noticing and picking up on that. Because you're right, a lot of people, when they're frustrated with their current situation and their current career, like they're ready to throw in the towel and just like I'm just gonna quit and then just like figure something out, right? And but really when you make the change, like you have to be really smart and strategic about it, depending on what your situation was, right? Now, had we if we were in a position where we had millions upon millions of dollars, maybe my change would have been a little bit more dramatic, and maybe I would have gone straight to entrepreneurship, right? But in my situation there, I couldn't ignore the big elephant in the room, the fact that, okay, we were like over $300,000, right? It's like, how are we going to get out of that and not let the weight of financial debt and insecurity suffocate us, right? Because we wouldn't be able to move forward
Mm-hmm.
in any direction, right? And so I think that was a very strategic decision that I made. And it's something that I guide my clients through now. I'm just like, okay, I know that you're frustrated with your job and you're ready to let go, but let's be smart about it. Let's strategically plan your transition. And one of the main things that you need in place for you is financial, right? Financial security, because especially if you're going to jump into the world of entrepreneurship, you and I both know that is not for the faintest of hearts, right? It's like it is a whole new ball game, and it stretches you in so many ways that you weren't even prepared to be stretched, right? For. And one of the things that's going to come up is financial, right? Of resources, of like, do you have money? And when you're not smart about it, you jump in and try to go from corporate to being an entrepreneur. It's a whole
Mm-hmm.
different
Mm-hmm.
one, whole set of new rules, and two, a whole set of mindset, right? That you need to understand in order to be successful in. And when you don't have the funds and the financial in place for it, you end up putting so much pressure on yourself and your business that you have to make this business work. This business has to make money in order for you to pay the bills. Then you're going into the business for the wrong reasons. And then it's like the energy that you put forth, it's going to be felt by your customers, right? They're not going to feel like, okay, this person truly sees me and truly cares about me, or they're going to know that I'm just a number,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's all about them making an revenue and having more clients, and it's not really about me and caring about me and my life and the impact that they want to be making in my life.
While you were sharing that story, I couldn't stop asking myself, who am I in that journey? Like when you went back into corporate, you had changed. So you weren't
Mhm.
necessarily, it must have been, at least to some degree, intentional of you to not deviate and become who you were before, to hold on to this new
Mm,
identity, to hold on to this
yeah.
vision and be like, I know why I'm here, but I'm here temporarily. I've got a different place to go. And I think that journey of how am I transforming and who am I is probably the most important question, rather than what am I doing right now, or what do I have to do,
Mm,
or what is the world giving me, or, you know, if I am this, then how do I show up in this circumstance? Because too many times
yeah.
I would try to control the circumstance, and I can't. I can't control what the world delivers to me, right? I can only control who I am, which then determines how I would react. And too many times I think people just get caught up in what's happening outside. And so kudos to you for being able to go back and not lose yourself again.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And and that kind of sparks something that there's this duality of becoming and on your journey of success, right? That back then I didn't understand it, and I'm hoping sharing this, hopefully it'll help someone who's listening, is that I realized that there's a duality of when you're trying to become somebody new and you're trying to create a new level of success for yourself and step into that next level of greatness. There's a spiritual side and there's a strategic side of things, right? And the spiritual side, and I don't mean like the woo woo kind, or that you have to be believing in God and prayers and doing all. And if you do, that's great. Like I'm a very spiritual person, and I do that, right? But I'm not saying if someone's not religious that they have to believe in God, otherwise they can't succeed. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the spiritual side is that we all have it, right? We don't have to be religious, but there's always a spiritual side to us, and that spiritual side entails us knowing who we truly are, right? That goes beyond our job titles, that goes beyond our bank account, that goes beyond the many hats that we wear on a day-to-day basis, just to navigate through the demands of life. And it's really understanding who we are and who we're not, right? And who we want to step into and become next. Because that is going to help us to not fall into the trap of comparisonitis and being jealous of others or judgmental of others. And because we just have this grounded knowing of like, this is who we are. And there's this quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are, right? And you become like you start to irradiate this light from within you, and from really knowing who you are, then you get to go to the next level of your spirituality. Is then understanding why you're really here, right? And I believe that we are each here for a specific reason, and we each have unique, specific gifts that are granted to us through the specific life journey that each of us have to go through, right? And it disguises itself through hardships and adversities, but those are all because it's a way for us to develop and discover and hone those natural gifts and blessings that we are supposed to extract from that and then share to the world to help humanity not experience that again, right? And when we're clear on that, it helps us kind of like, for instance, going back to the example that you noticed in me, it's like I went back to the corporate world, but I knew that there was a different purpose. This time it wasn't just to make money and climb the corporate ladder. This time it's for me to free myself of my financial debt so that I can step into this vision that's calling me forward and be this version of me that I see in this vision, and making that deeper impact in the world that I never thought was possible, but I'm going to try to step into and see where that leads me, right? And so it helps me to really stay clear and focused. And no matter how tough the corporate world was, like there are days when I didn't want to go into work and I want to call in sick, but that helps me to get up and go into the office and still do the best that I can be and do, because it was serving a purpose for me, right? That wasn't a means to an end it wasn't all that there was for me. It was just kind of like a stepping stone for me, right? And then I think that the third level of spirituality then is also knowing what you want, right? And giving yourself permission to want that. And it took me a long time to learn this lesson and understand this, Stavros, because for so many years of my adulthood, I didn't know what I want. And so I was just pulled in all sorts of different directions, right? And how it shows up is that like you would, like I would buy stuff
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't even need, right? Because I'm trying to fill myself
Mm-hmm.
up materially to fill this void, and the spiritual void inside of me, right? I would spend lavishly and unintentionally. My focus and attention would be all over the place. If someone tells me I should do this, and that, okay, sure, yeah, maybe I should, right? There's no intention whatsoever. And I showed up like it was just so much pretense, like so many layers and masks and pretense that I had to keep up with. And it was exhausting. It was truly exhausting. But when I started to learn more about who I am, why I'm here, what is it that I really want, and giving myself to want what I want, even though it didn't make sense for anybody else, but that's what I want. That's what makes me happy, right? And we talk a lot about joy and freedom here. And I think when we're grounded in those three areas from a spiritual side, it lends itself to free us from becoming someone that we're not, right? And pretending to be someone that we're not, doing what doesn't light up our soul, right? And pursuing things that doesn't make sense for us, but we still have to navigate it and maintain. So I think that's for true, to me, I mean, true fulfillment and freedom and joy comes in you being grounded on that spiritual side, in those three areas. Um, for me, you have a thought? Oh, what was going through your mind?
I love what you said about giving yourself permission to want what you want. And I want to maybe take it a step further is that sometimes, like, normally you want something and you're like, oh, that's ridiculous, or that. So you try to take away your
Yeah.
own permission to even want it,
Yes.
right? And I think it's
Yes.
okay to want something that you don't know how you're going to get. And you're not like, just to put it out there as a want, be like, hey, I want this. I don't know if it's realistic. I don't know if it's, but like, I want it. So I just have to live with the want. You know what I mean? Rather
Yes.
than try to suppress
Yeah.
the want because,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that that was a prime example when I ended my second chapter in the corporate world, right? Where it's like I was like at the height of my career at that point because I was a changed person. And the interesting part was that because when you are a changed person, like the world around you change with
mhm.
you, right? I was like being promoted so much faster than I ever was, and I wasn't even trying. That was the funny thing
Mhm.
about it. And so I reached, yeah, I was approaching the height of my career, and things were just like fantastic. And then I just decided, like end of 2018, I remember I'm just like, okay, I've met my intention. We've been able to pay off our debt. We now even have savings on the side, which we've never had in our life before. And I'm like, okay, so what's still holding us back? What's still holding me back, right? And so, end of 2018, I made the decision that I want to pursue this vision now of where it's going to lead me. And I didn't exactly know how it was going to pan out. I just knew that 2019, I was going to exit the corporate world and enter. Um, actually, I didn't even know it was going to be entrepreneurship at that point. I was just, it was still that hazy for me. But I had the conviction and I knew that this vision was going to lead me somewhere that was going to be so much more fulfilling and exciting, and it aligns with who I am and my purpose and everything. And so I exited the corporate world, and my friends, my colleagues, my family thought I was off the rocker. I mean, they thought I was just like crazy, beyond crazy. I'm like, what are you doing? Right? I was working for Johnson and Johnson at that time, and then when I decided to quit, the partners that I was supporting in Johnson and Johnson tried to call me and offer me like basically it would be like a two-level
Mhm.
promotion and have me lead a development center in Asia for them. And it was very enticing. It was so enticing. And I almost said yes, but I knew that if I did say yes to that, I would once again delay my vision. I would once again postpone the possibilities of that awaits me ahead. That was really meant for me instead. And so I declined that. And everybody, especially my family, they were so disappointed in me. It didn't make sense to any of them, but it made sense for me, right? It made sense that this was the path that I am supposed to go on next, right? Again, it's going back to giving yourself permission to want what you want and have the conviction to go what makes sense for you, for what you stand for. Um, so yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure from that
It
perspective.
strikes me that if
I
you had said yes, you would have compromised who you are, right? Which brings us back
Yes,
to that question
exactly.
of just knowing who you are, knowing who am I as the grounding truth. Like if you're not feeling right or if you have a difficult decision to make or whatever, just grounding yourself in who am I? You know what I mean? Being really
Yeah.
comfortable with whoever the hell you figure out you are. Just being really comfortable with yourself. And
Yes.
yeah.
And to be honest, Stavros, again, that's such an astute observation because to be honest, I think as I'm on this journey, the more I know about personal growth and personal development and success and all of that, it's the whole journey is all about who you are and who you are becoming, right? And and for me, I think what drives me and behind even my purpose, right? It's really about I don't want to compromise who I am. I don't want to betray my vision and my dreams for who I could be, right? And being on this entrepreneurial journey, I mean, don't get me wrong, it has been a ride of my life. And sometimes not in the best sense, right? I mean, it is frustrating, it is challenging, and I'm still figuring things out, right, on my journey. But man, I would not give it up. There has never been a moment when I second guess. I'm like, man, I should have accepted that uh, offer that they gave me to be the head of Asia Pacific, right, and the development center there. I should have gone back to the corporate. There has never been a moment where I said I wanted to go back because who I am today, the woman, the person, the leader that I am today, it's like I can humbly say that I am madly in love with who I am becoming each day. And I say that from a place of humility, not from a place of conceitedness or cockiness, but truly, I amaze myself every day of how strong I am, how resilient I am, how insightful I am, how resourceful I am, um, and I'm showing myself a side of me that I never thought was possible before, and it's exciting.
I love that you use those words because I think at the end of the day, the journey is about learning to love yourself and allowing yourself to really love yourself, and that you don't need
Yeah,
to earn it. You don't need to, and it's one of those things that's really easy to do, but so difficult to do at the same time, right? And
yeah.
the the other side of what I'm hearing there in my own experience is also the older I get, the more experience I have, the more I find that life strips away from me things that I thought I was. And I'm
Mm,
like, if who am I? And I define it. And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not that. I don't want to be that. You know what I mean? And I kind of,
yeah.
it strips away more and more. And I wonder if the tail end of life is the stripping away. If the first half of life is the building up and the second half of life is stripping away. I don't know.
Yeah, you're actually you're on point because yeah, there's so much that layers that we put on ourselves as protection, right? And as coping mechanisms early on. And I think as we step into this inward journey, it really is about shedding the layers that no longer serve us and releasing thoughts and emotions that were suppressed, right, or running in the background that were holding us back, and it really is. And I think that that's why the spirituality side, being grounded on the spirituality side, is so important because it's kind of like the yin and yang philosophy, right? Because on the other side of the spirituality is what I mentioned earlier is the strategic side, and it's based on your knowing and grounding yourself in who you are, why you're here, and what you want. Because then now you got to ask yourself, okay, now that I know who I am, now that I know like why I'm here and what my intentions are, now that I know like what I really want, like what my true desires are, right, to experience life and to be who I am. Now let's consider what expertise, what skills do I need to learn and develop, right? To create value in the world based on my passion and my purpose, right? And this is like the part where you're honing your skills, but you have to be really clear because let's say, for instance, if your purpose, and let's say in my case, right, it's like I want to help people like really truly understand who they are and learn to love themselves and learn to understand their true value in the world and live with purpose, right? And create this space where people unite people in love and prosperity, right? If that's my purpose, well, the skills that I would need to develop, it wouldn't be I want to go and learn how to be the best, uh, fixer upper, right, or flipping homes, right? Though it's a great value for sure, it creates value, but that doesn't align with who I am and my purpose, my intention. And so the skills that I would need to really prioritize learning would be around mindset, right? Around um, meditation, around all this like neuroscience of things and behavioral science and all of that to understand human behavior more and how can I transform the human behavior, right? And then it lends to once you're clear about the skills that you're needing to learn, so that you're not just kind of like all over the place and over exhausting yourself and overextending yourself, right? And having shiny object syndrome. Now it's like, okay, so what's the best vehicle that's going to help me kind of put that skill to great use, right? This is the best. What's the profession or the role that would be the best expression of your potential, right? Do I would being a realtor or a real estate investor be the best expression of my potential based on everything I shared earlier? No, absolutely not, right? Now, being a coach or consultant or a speaker, that probably is more aligned, right? And so it's like it builds on this level of clarity for yourself. And then it lends to like the very last part of the strategy side. It's like now, what's the business model that best serves you, right? That allows you to live the quality of life that you want and create the most amount of joy and fulfillment as you are sharing your gift in the world. And Stavros, I have to share with you, like this part was something that I had to recently learn in this past, like say 6 months or a year. Because even though I was clear on the spiritual side, who I am, my purpose, what I want, I was getting all the right skills and expertise developed for it, and the right vehicle for me to express my potential. But what I didn't realize, and I had to learn in this past year, was that I was using a business model that did not align with how I wanted to show up in life, how I wanted to live, and how I wanted to share my gift in the world, right? I was learning from business coaches who were very knowledgeable in their field and very successful in their business. And I was replicating a business model that didn't align with me. And I knew that for me, I love the human interaction, like the physical human interaction, right? Even though I'm an introvert, like it's very interesting. Even though I'm an introvert, but when I'm around people, I just naturally have this gift to um, to unite people, to bring people together, to make them feel safe, to kind of bond together. Just like, for instance, like the dinner that the connection dinner that we went to last weekend, right? This was like all these different entrepreneurs that may have know each other or may not know each other, but in the end, it felt like one of their participants said, like it felt like a mini family reunion, right? Everybody was just felt like so great together, and I realized that that was my strength. That's my strength of like bringing people together and creating spaces for us to just be and connect more deeply with one another, right? Have meaningful conversations and deeper connections. And I wasn't doing that. Instead, I was just building my business based on one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and I was locked behind my computer screen in my office all day, every day. And it was not enjoyable, even though the work itself, transforming people, was so fulfilling to me. But how I was doing it was not enjoyable for me, right? And then I recently realized that what I wanted to do instead is that I want to do and create memorable and transformative retreat experiences for people and be able to travel the world because that's been my dream. Like I wanted to travel the world. I grew up in a very conservative Asian household. Like I never got to go anywhere, do anything. I was always locked in the house, helping with household chores and everything while my brothers, like they were gallivanting around and going to school dances and all of that, right? And so when I grew up, like I always said, I want to travel the world. I want to experience and broaden my horizons and experience life to the fullest possible extent possible. And so I realized that, oh my gosh, why don't I change my business model to offer more retreat experiences at all these places around the world? And I get to connect more deeply with my clients. So that's something that a like I just had to learn myself here. So I'm hoping that that resonates with you or your listeners, whoever's listening here, to really understand that it's not enough for you to know what skills you have, what roles or vehicle to have, but be mindful of the business model that works for
What
you.
I heard you say when you were describing the dinner and then you were describing your desire to create retreats is I heard a return to your vision, right? You said before, I
Yes.
want to create spaces and that's you found a business model now that's aligned with your vision. So you're continuously kind of
Yeah.
getting closer and closer.
Yeah, it really, really is. And thank you for noticing that. And honestly, on this entire journey, becoming an entrepreneur and becoming a coach that I am, and then now refining it further of creating retreats, you're absolutely right. I mean, it really is me stepping more and more and kind of like putting the pieces of the puzzle of my vision together and getting closer and closer to that vision for sure. Like you're so astute. Like it's such a great observation.
I love listening to people and I've been told that I have a knack at being able to just pick stuff up and kind of clarify it and package in a nice way. And
Yeah,
I appreciate people saying that, and I'll keep doing it. If it's valuable to the world, I'll keep doing it. So,
absolutely. You definitely have a gift there for sure.
Jacquelynn, I'm torn because we're short on time, but I have a question from earlier in our conversation. I'm imagining maybe we'll have this one and then we'll call it an end. I'm imagining three different listeners out there, and one listener saying, man, what are they talking about? This is all woo woo stuff. Like I got bills to pay, I got stuff to do, and I hear that person, and I was that person at some point, and I wish them luck on their journey. Probably very little we can say to break through to them. Then there's other
Mhm.
people who are already on some version of this journey, and they're nodding along and they're saying yes, yes, you know what I mean. But then there's a third listener out there who's just starting understanding this journey and just starting to understand how who they are and what they do and how that fits into the world and how misaligned they might have been and why they burned out. And coming to terms with some of the things we discussed today must be absolutely terrifying, right? To just kind of realize the gap between the life you want and the person you want to be, and the life you've been living so far and the person you've become. And when I was there, it was so easy to retreat, to go back, you know what I mean, to being that other, or to ignore it, or to try something.
Yeah.
But what might be a message you could leave for those folks? And maybe we end on that. What would you say to them?
I would say that what's possible, what's available, and what awaits you is far beyond what you could ever fathom or imagine in your capacity right now. That if you just understand that and and trust that even in the best best vision or version that you can imagine your life could be, if you allow, if you could give yourself permission to surrender your ego and let go of your control and let the higher power in the universe surprise and delight you, you will be blown away at who you become on this journey ahead and the places that you'll be led to, the people that you'll meet, and the experience that you'll get to have access to and play a bigger game, such a bigger game, and serve at a capacity that just would blow your mind.
I love it.
Just trust.
Let's leave it at that. Trust. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of Wednesdays Off. I hope you had a wonderful time today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.